Okay, let's discuss this now with Andy Mock, who's a Senior Research Fellow at the Center for China and Globalization, who joins me on the line from Beijing. Appreciate it, Andy. So the outgoing President, Joe Biden, is going to be there at the Apec summit. I mean, he hasn't got much more time in office. Why is he bothering there? Is this about trying to just rival the influence that China's already having in the region?
Well, I think he's certainly going to fulfill his duties until the very last day. But I think you're right, Neil. It's hard to see President Biden as anything more than the lamest of lame ducks. And, it's hard to see a more wholesale repudiation of not only his policies, but the Democratic Party, as we saw in the loss of not just the US presidential election, but the loss in the Senate and the House as well. So it's hard to imagine any sort of realistic progress that could be made at this time by President Biden.
That 1 billion investment in a megaport from China, is that part of this game that the superpowers play of trying to win geopolitical influence by investing in countries and winning favor with their leaders?
Well, I think that's certainly the way it's framed by the United States. But I think from China's perspective, it has this view that global development is good for everybody, and it doesn't have this dualistic view of the world of us versus them. And I think that being said, a Chancay port in Peru will be a game changer for Latin America, because when we look at the history of this part of the world, it has suffered from the legacy of colonialism, where almost all the development has been on the coastal regions, and infrastructure connecting the interior part of the continent of South America has been woefully underdeveloped. And this may herald a new chapter with Chinese expertise, Chinese capital, that may really unlock a new era of hope for this part of the world that is far beyond a geopolitical competition.
With the appointment of Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, do you think there's, because America's been accused of being slightly neglectful of Latin America, now they've got a Latin American in a key state position like that, do you think perhaps the US will show more interest and try to rival China in South America?
Well, given Senator Rubio's background, so he, I think, very early on has publicly been a so-called China hawk, as has Mike Waltz, the national security advisor that President-elect Trump has appointed. So given this, it certainly seems that their priority will be China and Latin America, to the degree that illegal immigration and drugs are not the central topic, may be like Africa, continually neglected by the United States.
It's almost certain Donald Trump's going to whack big tariffs on imports coming from China to the United States. Where will their relations go from there? Is that going to spiral?
Well, this is something that President Trump has been very consistent on for not just years, but decades. I think also the Chinese side, whether we're talking about the government or businesses, I think have no illusions about how the trade relationship may move forward. Directionally, not much change is expected. Now, whether this is a 60% tariff or some other number, I think remains to be seen. That being said, I think Chinese businesses have shown tremendous resilience and flexibility. So, of course, one coping strategy is to work with other countries such as Vietnam and Mexico as a way to continue accessing the US market. Chinese businesses have also invested significant resources in developing alternative markets, whether that's South America, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, Africa. And we've seen, in some cases, double-digit growth in these markets. So I think China is pursuing a multifaceted strategy to cope with these expected tariffs.
Yeah, circumnavigating by the sound of it. Pretty smart stuff. Andy Mock, appreciate it. He's from the
Thank you, Neil.
Center for China and Globalization there.